Thank you. So, cumulative frequency graphs, a really nice topic because once you get it, and you can get the marks right. So, often exam questions will start with a normal grouped frequency table like the one that we see here. And what this is telling us about these 80 children who watched TV last week is that 6 of them watched between 0 and 2 hours worth of TV in the week. That 26 of them here watched between 6 and 8 hours. That those who watched from 10 up to 12 hours was 4 people. So that's how the table's working. Notice over here that in this cumulative frequency table, they all start from 0. So this is about saying people who were 0 to 2, these 6 people. But 0 to 4 is all the way from 0 to 2 and the 2 to 4. It's these here. It's the 6 and the 10 is 16. This says all the way through to 6. So the 6 and the 10 and the 22. The next group includes this next 26. The next group includes the 12 as well. And then the final 4 come into this group that goes all the way from 0 to 12. The total you get here should refer to the same total in the question. And there's a nice check there in the exam. Make sure that it does. Filling in that table often gets you 1 or even 2 marks in a GCSE paper, and it's important we do that. The next part of a question will ask you to complete the cumulative frequency table. And the most important information here when we're doing the cumulative frequency is that we plot the upper value against the cumulative frequency. So these are the sort of coordinates that we're going to plot. We use the upper value. Unlike the frequency polygon where we use the middle values, for a cumulative frequency graph we use the upper values. So we now need to just plot those points. We plot them really carefully onto our graph. Okay, so let's have that ready. Okay, the first one, we're going to plot 2, 6. So we come across the 2, look at the scale here, each square is worth 2. Be careful of the scale. So we're going to go here to 6. The next one is 4, 16. The next one is 6, 38. The next one is 8, 64. The next one is 10, 76. The last one is 12, 80. You plot those points. You also join it to the lowest, lowest, lowest value, which in this case is 0. There are no people at 0. That gives you a series of coordinates that you've plotted, straight from the table. The upper value with the cumulative frequency. My advice is to join them with a ruler, to join them as line segments, and it is a good thing to do. You can try and draw a curve that goes through those points, but it's a bit messy sometimes. The mark scheme will be absolutely happy for you to have drawn, it's quite hard for me to see the screen here, but it should be happy for you to draw something that looks like that as a cumulative frequency graph. If you've correctly plot the points and you correctly join them with a ruler, you will get all of the marks for that. So now we've moved from the table into the cumulative frequency table into the cumulative frequency graph. Remaining questions on an exam paper will ask you to work things out using the graph. So the first thing we have to work out is an estimate for a number of children who watched for less than 7 hours. Again, you need a really good ruler here. If you look at 7 hours, this is 2, that's 2, 4, 6, 7 is here. If you read up from 7 up to that graph there, you're going to get to about here. You read across from that, if I'm quite accurate with that, it would be around about there. And what I'm doing, it's good to draw arrows on this to show how you've gone up and across. That could get you a mark, a method mark in the exam. What this is telling us is, if we look up the left-hand side, look at this scale, that's 50, 51 we've got here. Now you've got to think about this the right way round. Up to 7 hours goes up to 51. That means there were 51 people who watched up to 7 hours. If it was asking for more than 7 hours, it's the distance here above the 51. But in this case, they asked for up to less than 7 hours. So you're looking at this part here, which corresponds to this part here. You read up, you read across, you find the 51. One way of using the cumulative frequency graph. The next one here, that's labelled as part 4 of this question. We just change to a different colour for this one. It says find an estimate for the median amount of time children watch TV. The median, remember, median is middle. Don't go straight here to 6 and say, well, that's the middle of 0 to 12. That's not how these things work. You want to go halfway up the frequency. Up this side here, halfway for the median, halfway up the 80, so we're going to go up to 40. You want to know how much TV that middle child watched, the 40th child. So again with a ruler, we are going to go, this time, across from 40. Where is the 40? There it is. Straight across from the 40. Hit the graph and come straight down. Now make sure you're sticking to these grid points as much as you can. Okay, so it's dead horizontal, dead vertical. What we can now do is read that value off the bottom axis, and we can see here that this has come out just there. Now you need to look really carefully at where that is. If that here is 6, are we 1 square short, or are we on it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. We're bang on 6. So here we're going to say 6 is what we looked for. Okay? You can't just say it's the middle across here. You have to go up, halfway, across and down. It might end up in the middle, but that's how you've worked it out. Finally, the interquartile range. Interquartile means between the quartiles. It's not the range, it's the interquartile range. So it's not the range from smallest to largest, it's the range between the lower and upper quartile. Quartiles are called quartiles. They give you a clue. If you're going to work with the quartiles, you need to go 1/4 of the way up here for the lower quartile and 3/4 of the way up for the upper quartile. Now remember, 80 is the top value here. So 1/4 of 80 means we go up to the 20. 3/4 of the 80 means we go up to the 60. So those are the two values we're going to use. 1/4 of the way through the data for the lower quartile, 3/4 of the way through the data for the upper quartile. And again with a ruler, really carefully, we're going to read across from the 20 there to the line, and we're going to read across from the 60 to the line. And for each of those values we're going to read straight down. There's 1 there and 1 just there. And you need to be very, very careful with the scale. If you look across the bottom here, there are 5 little squares for every 2 hours. 5 squares for every 2 hours. That means that each of those squares is going to be worth 0.4. So each of those squares is worth 0.4. Just some basics from year 7 on how to use scales. So let's be really careful. This one here, it's 1 little square short of the 8. So that's going to be 7.6 hours. Okay, now that's the upper quartile. For the lower quartile, reading here, it's 4 hours and 1 extra little square. So that's 4.4. Okay. 4.4 there, 7.6 was there. This is the lower quartile, this is the upper quartile. The interquartile range is the distance between the two. So we subtract. 7.6 take away 4.4 is 3.2. And that is our answer for the interquartile range. And the exam mark scheme, it will allow you to be 1 square either way for this, and 1 square either way for this. So your answer, where I've got 3.2, could be as much as 2 little squares different. So you could have an answer in the range of something like this, 2.4 on there, all the way up to 4. Gives you quite a range, because 1 little square out either way is accepted in that mark scheme.